Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a live reaction. Another one brought to you by Pick a Side. I'm here with Drew, here with Mr. Dells. We will see if John and Riv join us. John said that we should start without him, and I think John probably will be here before the end of this stream. And Riv said he will be here, but he has some family over for Mother's Day, so we'll see if he comes at some point on this stream as well. But we have Dells, we have Drew. Fellas, we watched OKC tie this series 2-2, and we watched Indiana beat the brakes off of Cleveland to go up 3 games to 1. But first of all, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Hope you guys had an excellent Mother's Day. How are you guys doing? I'll start with you, Drew.
I'm doing great. Great to be back. It's been a minute. For those that don't know, I've started a job up again as a nurse. It's been pretty hectic. Shout out to the boys for holding it down. Never in doubt. You guys are goated. However, I thought today was going to be way, way, way better than it ended up being. I thought we had a great game at the 3 o'clock slate. Lord have mercy, this nighttime game was terrible. And I thought this was going to be the better game. I was wrong. However, interesting storylines. I would have loved to see John. I would have loved to see Riv. I'm excited to hear Dells, no doubt. But it's going to be an interesting one.
I'm doing great, man. It was a great Mother's Day. I hope everyone, everyone watching, you too, you guys had a great Mother's Day celebrating with your moms. A lot to talk about from the Cavs. I'm excited to talk about the Cavs because I think they are one of the most, I don't know if it's going to be them. The Thunder winning today we're holding off everything on the Thunder. We should talk to Thunder a little bit a couple nights ago, but the Cavs going down 3-1 after this historic season. It's going to be a lot to talk about.
The most improbable playoffs are happening right now. A lot of things that we didn't expect to be happening. You're right that the story was going to be on OKC had they lost against Denver and went down 3-1. But Cleveland has gotten some grace due to the injuries that they had heading into this series. But overall, they lose to Indiana 129-109. This was a 40-point blowout at halftime. Indiana was making every shot. Obi Toppin was on fire off the bench. Aaron Nesmith to end off the half hit a contested fadeaway mid-range jump shot. And you're just thinking to yourself, is there any way that Indiana is going to miss any shot? And Cleveland came out in this game lifeless. They deserve so much criticism for how they came out. You came out with Garland, with Mitchell, with Mobley, with Jared Allen, your starters. They probably are playing through some injuries, but at this point in the playoffs, who isn't? They played, they were out there, and they came out sluggish. I just look at the Cavaliers, and I felt like, to me, this was a lock to make the conference finals or to make the NBA finals. 64 wins, first in offensive rating, eighth in defensive rating, third in net rating. They have 3 All-Stars. They went on 3 different 10-plus game win streaks, a 16-game win streak, the most in franchise history, a 15-game win streak, a 12-game win streak. For them to lose in the second round, injuries or not, is one of the biggest disappointments that I've seen in recent memory. Game 2, they were up 7 points with a minute left, and they ended up blowing that game to the Indiana Pacers. You look back at that game and you say that probably cost them this series because the series could have been tied 2-2. Last game, they had a great performance, but then in game 4, coming out this flat against an Indiana team who, if you sleep on them for 1 second, they're going to score on you. They just run that fast up and down the court. Their defense has been a lot better. The story, I think, should be made about the Pacers, and we will talk about them. But I think for right now, we're looking at one of the biggest disappointments in the NBA if they lose in the second round.
In the NBA this year, without a doubt. That being said, the first upset that comes to mind is Boston going down 0-3 to the A-seeded Miami Heat in 2023. To me, that's immediately what comes to mind. But coming into this series, Joel, you and I were on a similar mindset. You can't sleep on this Pacers team. I ultimately did think that the Cavaliers were going to beat them, but the way that the Pacers had played ball against the Milwaukee Bucks, the way that the Pacers had been playing basketball basically the entire 2025 calendar year, they are way too good for us to have just let them be overlooked in this matchup. And that's with understanding the Cavaliers are amazing. You already mentioned all of their accolades that they achieved in this regular season. But who really wins in this scenario is playoff basketball, because you never know what you're going to get. All season long, we're talking about the ECF being a lock. Cavaliers, Boston Celtics. But here we are where we sit, and the Pacers are up 3-1 and the Knicks are up 2-1. Two things that were highly unlikely. Now we sit in a situation where the two heavy favorites are down in the series. I think Boston has a chance to come back, obviously, but with the way that you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers and how banged up they are, how lackadaisical they came out in this game, like you mentioned, with all of their guys playing. And on top of it, in this game, you have Benedict Mathurin get ejected for a flagrant 2. You have the momentum that should swing your way, and the complete opposite happens, and the Pacers just go on this manslaughter of baskets nonstop. They cannot miss. It was one of the crazier things I had ever seen in a basketball game, because, again, we're all anticipating the Cavs to take this game. It's been very disappointing to watch. I did anticipate them to be better, but really, like you mentioned, and like we all should be respecting, the Pacers are really good.
Yeah, this game feels like it should have gone the other way. It feels like the Pacers came out like they were desperate, and they were the team that was down 2-1 on their home court and felt like they needed to, really throw that first punch. Instead, the Cavaliers go out here and have one of the worst first quarters I've seen maybe any team in these playoffs have. They were down really early in this game. They're down 40 going into halftime. It was an embarrassing loss, and you can't really put it on one player. Kenny Atkinson said after the game, it's not like it was on, one facet. We just got dominated, and that's a fact. Darius Garland had 0 points in the first quarter. DeAndre Hunter wasn't good. Donovan Mitchell was, scoring, but of course he goes down at halftime. Evan Mobley wasn't aggressive at all. Jared Allen had a couple of bad passes and bad turnovers. Like, top to bottom, the guys you've been counting on day in and day out did not show up in this game. And to combat that, or to make matters even worse, I should say, the Pacers had one of their best halves of basketball on the season. 80 points in one half. They were hitting every three. You mentioned Obi Toppin, Miles Turner, Tyrese Halliburton, and the way they were making these threes too, like, sometimes the ball spins around, you get a lucky bounce. These were all
straight
wets.
bottom.
Like, they were the absolute perfect green, perfect. Sorry, old head 2K. Those are the type of shots they were getting, that it was just straight net. That's how on target and online and really just locked in this Pacers team was. But yeah, the Pacers have been for a year now. And I said this maybe a month ago at this point, that last year going through the playoffs, making the ECF, beating teams with those injuries were still somehow a negative to how they get viewed in the public. The fact that they went on an ECF run, it feels like after that happened, people looked at them like they were the same team. And they're like, oh, that's just going to be this one-time thing. There'll be a first-round exit going forward, when, I know a bunch of Boston fans were saying, no, this Pacers team is really good. The Pacers gave us the toughest fight out of any team we played last year. Like, they have depth. They have high-level players. Of course, they dealt with injuries in the ECF and ended in 4, although it was a super competitive 4. And they showed this year, I think, the start of the season was just so rocky, right? They were under 500 about 20 games in. Tyrese Halliburton didn't get off to the best start. But we've seen some of the numbers, I've seen, Joel, you tweet, I've seen on the broadcast. But since 2025, they've been the 4th best team in the NBA. They've had a top 10 defensive rating. We know how lethal this offense is. So although the Cavs are dealing with injuries, you can't take anything away from the Pacers, because if the Cavs are 100% healthy, this still was going to be a 6-7 game series that the Pacers could have won in 6 or 7. It never made sense to me, although I did pick the Cavaliers winning, that anyone thought this was going to be an easy series really either way, but specifically for the Cavaliers, just the brand of basketball the Pacers play, you have to be really damn good, because the Pacers are going to get out in transition. We know how high potent their offense is. Halliburton's playing the best basketball of his career. Siakam's coming off one of the best regular seasons of his career. This team is so deep. It is so well coached. They're able to really execute on all of your mistakes. I mean, it's one thing to miss shots against this team, but it just gets even worse, because once you miss shots, they're one of the best teams in transition. So it's a double whammy there. All the credit deserves, to the Indiana Pacers. And Boston against Miami is up there. This would be probably on par, just because it's the second round. Not that it makes anything better or worse. You lose, right? But coming into these playoffs, it seems almost unfathomable that the Cavaliers are going to go home before the ECF. As much as credit that we gave to the Bucks before the Dame injury, and the Pacers and the Knicks a little bit too. We never thought the Pacers were the Cavaliers had a legitimate chance of going home before the ECF. And it's not over yet, but they have not looked like the better team outside of one game in the series, right? You mentioned the blown lead. That looks like a game that if you would have won that game, right, you just 7-point lead, a minute left. Now it's 2-2 going back to Cleveland. Okay, not the end of the world. You split here. It's a series. But since you blew that lead, you have one of these games where the Pacers come out super hot and you look up and it's 3-1 and it feels like, you're really climbing an uphill battle to try to get back in the series.
I don't know what else the Cavaliers could have done. They had 3 10-plus game win streaks. They won 65 games or 64 games, one of those two. What else could they have done in the regular season to sway people that didn't believe into believing in them? But not only that, what else could have they have done in the regular season to make sure they're healthy for this moment? Because they did everything possible. Mitchell didn't have a crazy year in terms of usage. His numbers dropped. He played the less amount of minutes that he's played in a while. Garland didn't play that many minutes. Like their entire starting lineup, for the most part, rested for most of the season and didn't play 35, 36 minutes a night. Their bench was super productive. They traded for a 6-man of the year candidate. They did everything right to try to be healthy for this moment, and they ended up getting injured for this moment. Some people are panicking and saying the Cavaliers should try to explore a trade. I think right now it's too soon to say that, just because you need to see how this team looks like when they're healthy. I understand that they lost today when they were healthy and they were down 41 points at halftime, but in the same breath, Indiana, if they faced a healthy Cleveland team for the entirety of the series, I thought Indiana was capable of a couple games where they could have stole, even if Cleveland was healthy. So even when they were healthy, I thought this series was going to be an uphill battle. Now it's not over yet. It's 3-1. History has shown us that is pretty much the nail in the coffin in most series. But Cleveland tried to prepare for this moment as much as they possibly could, and they still got hurt.
Couple things. Dels, I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of them not looking like the better team. I just can't help but think, obviously, we just watched an ass kicking, a bad one. And this is obviously the last image in our head. But this really does look different. Like you said, if game 2, they just act like the Cavaliers, like we've seen all season long. And that is in a game where obviously you have the top guys not play and Donovan Mitchell's just acting like a superhero. And then obviously we get the iconic pick aside live reaction. That was amazing. I just can't, I'm not trying to be unfair to the Cavaliers. They blew it. They choked, and credit to Indiana for seizing that opportunity and stealing that one away from them, knowing that the Cavaliers needed that win really badly. I just look at that one lapse where the Pacers were able to swing the pendulum onto their side. I don't think the Cavaliers outside of today have played bad basketball considering their situation. That's at least in my opinion. And the last thing I'll say in this, to Joel's point, although it's not looking like the strongest opinion right now because the Knicks are up 2-1 in the series. Of course, we can see things change really quickly. The reason I favored the Celtics over the Cavaliers all season long was for 2 reasons. 1, the Celtics obviously were the champs. They have the experience. But 2, year after year, this time of season, we see the Cavaliers' best players break down. Whether it's Jared Allen in the past, whether it's now Evan Mobley, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, who we've seen a couple of seasons. Last year, for the majority, Darius Garland was banged up, and he wasn't playing his best brand of basketball. This year, now you have a revolving door between Garland, between Evan Mobley. It's just a team that can't get it right at the right time. And it's unfortunate because we see how great of a team they can be when they are at 100%. But when you need them, it's a long, grueling season. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to answer the call. It's an unfortunate situation for them.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an unfair. They're going to be going to an unfair position. It's a fair, unfair position. I don't really know which way to look at it because you are going home in the second round, back-to-back years. And this year is different than last because of how dominant the regular season was. So I think you deserve to be criticized for it, right? Of course, you're going to be underperforming considering your expectations, especially once we enter the playoffs, right? You're looking at a historic team once again. But the unfair part is it is back-to-back years where your team is just hurt. And although, they were healthy today, I get that. But Darius Garland doesn't really look like the same guy he looked like in the regular season. He had one shot attempt in the first quarter. He did not look like himself in game 3 as well. I know, the plus minuses and stuff say, Darius Garland was super effective, and, just being out there is going to cause some issues for the Pacers defense because you have to respect Darius Garland, but he was still not the same player that we saw in the regular season. And Evan Mobley, he just wasn't aggressive at all in this game. And the game gets out of hand early. And when you're down 20 points at the end of the first quarter, 40 at halftime, it's hard to nitpick guys here and there. But it is 2 years in a row now where guys are getting banged up, like Drew mentioned. And now you have this Donovan Mitchell thing. And who knows if that's a small tweak and they're down 40, so we're not going to put you out there, or that's a non-contact injury. Don't know what that is. That can't be good, and he would have to miss potentially a game 5, or if the series gets extended any further, miss multiple games. So it's going to be a long offseason, I think, for Cavs fans, because on one side, it's like we've been banged up back-to-back years. What happens if we were 100% healthy this year? But on the other side, you have to look at it saying we're the number 1 seed, and we had the second best offense in NBA history, and we've had 4 guys that were NBA caliber, all-star level caliber, all NBA caliber dudes this year. You had such a great bench. You had Ty Jerome, the 6th man of the year candidate. You trade for DeAndre Hunter. This team was loaded, and it feels like every year that slips by, the windows are never as big as we think it is, right? Like we always think champions and first seeds, they're going to be like this for the next 7 to 8 years, and in reality, it's not like that. So for the Cavs to have this special of a season and to end in this abrupt way, assuming they get either losing game 5 or game 6, is going to be disappointing.
So now if you're the Cavaliers, if you make a trade, it's go big or go home. I don't think it's like minimal trades and stuff. If you really want to make an all-in trade, if you're the Cavaliers and you're the Bucks, would you trade Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and first-round picks for Giannis? Who says no in that scenario?
That's so tough. I'm gonna be honest. I can't see the Cavs give up on Mobley the year he wins DPOY.
No, I'm saying Allen.
Garland and Allen.
Apologize.
Yeah.
You know what? That's on me because I'm seeing in the chat people have Mobley in the packages for Giannis. I apologize. I probably would do it if I'm the Cavaliers. I get Giannis, obviously. Then then Mitchell becomes my 1.
You re-sign Ty Jerome.
You bring back Ty, and then you have
the
Mobley, Giannis. That's the one thing where now who becomes my 5? I know we've seen Mobley have the ability to play the 5, but we know Mobley is amazing because of how great he is on switches, especially on obviously talking about the defensive side. I think that the Cavs would say yes because you're getting Giannis. That's an easy decision. But for the Bucks' sake, I don't know. That's a tough yes for me personally, considering that yes, Garland's great. Yes, Jared Allen's really good. But what other assets am I getting? What first round picks am I getting? I don't know. That's not a bad deal, obviously, but I don't know. I think I just need to be a little bit more wowed.
I think I would try one more season with this group. The regular season you just had, I know you got bounced in the second round. The regular season you just had, we don't really see. Like, I know everyone compares them to the Atlanta Hawks. They were so much better than the Atlanta Hawks. Like, all the numbers, they were so much better than the Atlanta Hawks. So I don't think it's fair to just be like, oh, they're regular season merchants, they'll never do anything. So I wouldn't want to completely tear this team apart. But in the same breath, like, if anyone is expendable out of these core 4, it's the 2 guys you mentioned. It's Darius Garland and Jared Allen. If you can make a move for a top 3, top 2 player in the world, and you keep Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, that big 3 you just formed is arguably the best in the NBA. If assuming it all fits together, which TBD, because we thought Dame and Giannis would fit so perfectly, but in theory it fits because you do have Mobley could play the 5, Giannis could play the 4. That defense is going to be insane. Donovan Mitchell, and you still have guys like Ty Jerome you could possibly bring back, and Hunter and all these guys. So I would want to give it one more year. But if for some reason the Bucks would be willing to take that offer and listen to it, that's something that'd be hard to pass up.
The most picks the Cavaliers can trade, because they gave up a lot to get Donovan Mitchell in the first place. 2026 first round pick, but the Spurs hold the right to swap.
Okay.
2028 first round pick, but the Jazz hold the right to swap. So you're getting 2 late firsts pretty much, unless the Spurs are better and the Jazz are better than the Cavs, and a 2030 first round pick. So they can at most trade 3 firsts
But
and
those two
Garland
picks-
and Allen.
I don't love it. I'm not going to say I do. I think Garland and Allen, obviously, they're two really strong players. I don't know. It's Giannis for me, and I think that's really what's holding me back. I feel like unless Giannis comes out and says trade me, I can't do it personally. It's one of those where Giannis means too much for the franchise. He's too great of a player. He's still in his prime. He's coming off one of his best seasons, arguably his best season as a basketball player, and he's had some great seasons already. I don't know. It's tough for me to sit with personally.
Yeah, I think the only way is if you're Milwaukee, you can't find a way to get your picks back, right? If you can't make a trade work out where you're able to, be able to control your future again and go into a total rebuild, this deal does make sense because it feels like Garland and Jared Allen, in terms of players that will be available in the offseason, like we talked about the Rockets, it's like Jalen Green and Jabari Smith, and credit to those guys, and they're young and have potential, but Garland and Jared Allen are two
Those are
all-star
two
players
all-stars.
again.
Yeah, they're better.
Yeah,
I
those
lie.
are two like building blocks that you could build around. So if you're saying, hey, we don't want to go into a total rebuild because we don't have our picks, but at least be competitive, that's a move that makes sense.
Yeah, you're getting 2 all-stars back. You have cap space. That's a consistent playoff team in the East. They don't have a championship level ceiling, but that's a consistent playoff team in the East.
I know we're talking about the Cavs getting Giannis, but realistically, in my opinion at least, the only team I see having the assets, the true assets to get Giannis is Oklahoma City. They're the only team I think can realistically put together a legitimate package to get it done, to get Giannis because of Chet, because of J-Dub, because of the 19,000 first-round picks that they do have.
Yeah,
That's the only team I see having the real capital to get him. Respect to the Cavs, obviously, like we're saying, Garland and Allen are far from being a bad deal for the Bucks to get. I just think that what we've seen their ceiling as these two together, and it's not great. If you're the Bucks, you want a return that is strong, but not good enough that my drafts are being impacted.
no, absolutely. I think you're correct on that. I think it would take the Cavs trading Mobley and Garland to do it. For
And
the Bucks to say yes, I think it would have to
And
be
I'm
those
straight.
two.
Respectfully, I'm straight.
If you're the
I'm good
Cavs,
on that too.
If I'm the Cavs, I'm straight.
Yeah, if I'm the Cavs, I don't want to do it either, but I think that's what it would take. Now, let's talk about the Pacers because I'm very excited about the Pacers being up 3-1 in this series. I think they really showed their mental fortitude in this series, and I understand that last year you can nitpick the run that they had, get into the Eastern Conference Finals, and there's a lot of merit to that. But them getting to the conference finals back-to-back years, I think removes them from the Hawks fluke run conversation because the Hawks only made the playoffs 1 year and then they kind of flamed out right after that, never had that type of high again. The Pacers legitimately, you mentioned it, Drew, since January 1st, the 4th best record in the NBA, post All-Star break, the 8th best defensive rating in the NBA. This team has improved their defense to the point that I think they can make the NBA Finals with how good and elite their offense is. And it brings me back to all the offseason conversations we had because, sometimes I go back and I like to revisit some old videos. Now, the Pacers in the offseason, because of the fluke run, we had debates, and now you guys can check it out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can go see it for yourself. We had debates about the Pacers and the Cavaliers, who had a better future long term. I picked the Pacers. At one time, it didn't look that great because the Cavaliers were just so awesome. But now that they're about to pick the Cavaliers, I mean, despite the injuries, I'm still taking that as the W all way, all the day, all day. And then also we had a debate. I don't know if you guys remember that. What is more likely to make a drastic improvement, the Magic's offense or the Pacers' defense? We had that conversation because we were picking what team is going to break out in the East again and what team is a little bit underrated heading into the year. And the Pacers have proven to really elevate their defense, and I think that has raised their ceiling tremendously. I think the reason why I'm so high on the Pacers and why I was so high on them then and why I'm still high on them now is because of the depth. I don't think that they are superstar reliant. Halliburton raises the floor and the ceiling of the team. But you look at this game that he had 11 points. I mean, this game was backpacked by the role players hitting shots, Obi Toppin's energy off the bench. And the Pacers rebuild has been a fascinating rebuild to me because it was never really a true rebuild. You think about the Pacers since I've watched basketball, the Paul George era, they made conference finals. When they traded Paul George, they got back Victor Oladipo, and Oladipo had an all NBA season and was one of the best two guards in the world with them. He gets hurt, so they don't reach that same level. But there was a point in time where they had Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert and Miles Turner and DeMontis Sabonis and TJ Warren, and they were competitive. We always knew they had a limited ceiling, but they were competitive. They never went into a full tank mode. Tyrese Halliburton wasn't drafted by this team. Kevin Pritchard has built a contending roster with trades and through draft picks, but through calculated trades, the free agent market isn't available to Indiana like it is available to other teams. And Kevin Pritchard, over the past 3 years, this is just 3 years, he's traded for Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and Tyrese Halliburton. Those are 3 starters that he's traded for. He traded Sabonis for Hallie. He traded Brogdon for Nesmith. He traded a 2nd-round pick for Obi Toppin, and he traded Bruce Brown and 3 firsts for Pascal Siakam. Overall, really good returns. And then he drafted Nembhard in the 2nd round, Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, Ben Shepherd. The only players right now on this current team that were there before these players got there were TJ McConnell and Miles Turner. Outside of that, Kevin Pritchard over the last 3 years has brought all these players in. And a big reason why they're so good is not only because Halliburton is one of the best point guards in the NBA and they have another all-star in Siakam, but it's also that they are a deep team like 8 through 12. There are players that don't get playing time for this team that would be fundamental role players for other teams. Like Jarris Walker doesn't get playing time, and whenever he steps on the court, he makes an instant impact. And Isaiah Jackson got hurt for the year, and this team's depth is still amazing. So overall, they're able to compete at this high of a level because you just look at the roster compared to other teams in the league. They are one of the most deepest teams in the NBA.
I also think it's really well brought together with the fact that Rick Carlisle is their head coach as well. And it is obviously a huge luxury that you do have one of the best playmakers in basketball in Tyrese Halliburton. But with the offensive system that obviously Rick Carlisle has put into place for the Pacers to go out there and execute, you see, like you mentioned, with all this depth, there are a plethora of pieces on this team that can initiate and get out and run and get this offense in the high level that we've seen it be over these last couple of seasons. And you look at a game like today, and you mentioned it, Tyrese Halliburton wasn't the best scoring version of himself, but like you mentioned, it really did not matter when you have Pascal Siakam shooting 90%. You have Miles Turner pulling up in transition, Ben Shepherd, Obi Toppin go ahead and being contributors. I think it was Nesmith right before the half. He goes and he has a nice buzzer-beating shot to go ahead and put the Pacers up 40 points. There was literally whatever they wanted to do, they could go out there and execute at the highest of levels tonight. When you look at how great of an offensive system that they have created, and with the depth that they have and the different pieces that can carry out the offense that Rick Carlisle wants to go out there and run, it really brings home the point of how great, how well-rounded this Indiana Pacers team is. And it's really, really starts with the front office all the way to the 9-10 guys that Indiana can religiously run out there. It really has been impressive all season long for them, and it's really coming into fruition for them at the perfect time.
Yeah, it's funny you just mentioned, Joel, that we talked in the offseason about Orlando's offense versus the Pacers defense, because of course Orlando has the bottom 3 offense in basketball this year. You know, had injuries and whatnot, but the offense was so terrible. But it just makes you think of the 2 franchises and how much Orlando is criticized for lack of movement, right? For lack of going out there and getting that star guy like Anthony Simons, who's been linked to them. Trae Young's been linked to them. The list goes on and on. But really the 2 biggest moves that the Pacers have made over these last few years have been trades. It's making the swing Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton, and it's going out there and trading multiple first-round picks and Bruce Brown to go and get Pascal Siakam. So we've known for years, like you mentioned, this has been a team and a franchise that's shown they're able to consistently put out great teams. They're able to draft and develop well. But what we've seen is when they went out there and made a big swing for a star, that's how they're really able to get over the hump, right? Like the Magic. I know you had 3 years in a row, multiple years in a row, and Suggs and Franz, Paulo. We know you can draft well, but we've also seen you need to add something on top of that. You have to use different, avenues to improve your team. And that's what the Pacers have done, slowly but steady. You know, you think of the Aaron Nesmith trade from Malcolm Brogdon. At first, it looked like, damn, the Celtics were able to get a six-man of the year caliber guy for no one who's really in their rotation. A couple of years later, Aaron Nesmith is one of the better role players in the NBA, a guy that could hit threes, who could play awesome defense, is a big energy guy, super athletic. Nembhard, a guy they've been able to draft and develop. And of course, the Miles Turner, who they've had there forever, and TJ McConnell, who's been there forever. So they've just been able to really pick and poke at all avenues in terms of team building. And this is an awesome team. Like, this is a team that, of course, you know, I think Boston has more firepower, and of course they have the experience of doing it, but they're going to be a tough ass series. You know, that's if Boston gets past, could be New York. Who knows, Joel? Your Knicks aren't dead 2-1. Come on, cheer up.
It's not. I mean, we're up right now. If the series ended today, we'd win the series.
Yeah, facts. But it's going to be a tough series. They gave it to us last year, pause, and, you know, that was with Halliburton getting a little banged up. So they're a great team, man. Well coached, like Drew mentioned, and one of the best well run.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about how they've built their team is they took swings on depreciating assets. The entire NBA was scared to trade for Pascal Siakam because he was on an expiring deal. There was the question mark about whether or not a team wanted to give him a max contract. I'm looking back on the Pascal Siakam trade. They traded Bruce Brown, Jordan Nora, and Carol Lewis Jr. for 3 first-round picks. They really just traded 3 firsts, and those are 3 late firsts for Pascal Siakam. I mean, you're doing that 5 times out of 5 times, 10 times out of 10 times, whatever number you want to put on it. They took a swing on him. Obi Toppin, 8th overall pick, was getting buried in the Knicks rotation. Tom Thibodeau didn't really play him. Oh, this guy's insanely talented. Let's throw a 2nd-round pick at him. Okay. They got Obi Toppin. Aaron Nesmith, like you mentioned. Tyrese Halliburton was like a swap with Sabonis and Hallie. And I think it brings me to a bigger conversation. It's a thought I had earlier that the Pacers have made all the right moves to fully support Tyrese Halliburton, and the Kings in that same time frame have made all the wrong moves to not support Sabonis and Fox, to the point that Fox ended up getting traded, and now the Kings are kind of like in this full-on no man's land, close to a rebuild point in time. And it makes me ask the question that if Tyrese never gets traded from the Kings, because he originally was drafted there, and let's say they do pick they do pick Halliburton over Fox, do you even trust the Kings to maximize what Halliburton has become?
No. I was going to say the Kings are the Kings. And as you're saying it's just clicking like, no, this makes sense. The Kings have been a sorry organization for decades.
Ever. Yeah.
For my entire lifetime, outside of the last 3 years that Sabonis has been there, and even still, they've been underwhelming for how good of a team that they have, at least on paper. When you look at the Pacers, essentially our entire lives, they've been a respectable team, a respectable organization. Especially for a small market team, you have to tip your cap to all the moves and all the levels of success. Although they haven't reached the mountaintop, the consistency that they've shown to at least try and put an effort towards winning, it's admirable. Unlike the Kings, who have been just a nonstop year after year shit show. That's where I look at these two teams, and yeah, no, I don't think that if Halliburton stayed on the Kings, I'd feel confident in him. I think Halliburton would be really good because he was really good on the Kings when he played, and we all were scratching our heads as to why they chose Halliburton over Fox, because at the time Halliburton was playing better than Fox, and then Fox obviously ended up turning up once Halliburton left. I think that with Hallie and Sabonis would be interesting because Hallie does provide that extra level of playmaking that Fox, he's not necessarily.
Well, they wouldn't be on the same, or unless they swap Fox for Sabonis.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of Fox, it would have been, or instead of Halliburton, it would have been Fox. That would have been interesting to see. But nevertheless, let's not open up Pandora's box. No, I don't trust the Kings to make good moves.
No, not even a little bit. They would still be terrible.
And I think that's just the difference. Halliburton getting traded to the Pacers was like the best thing that could have possibly happened for his career. And the Pacers have consistently been just one of the most well-run organizations and just consistently good, great. They've just always been there. And 2 ECFs in the Paul George era, about to be 2 ECFs in the Halliburton era. And I think because the Pacers have ran into some teams that have been injured, I don't think they get enough credit. even though the Knicks were injured last year, coming back from a 2-0 deficit is admirable. The way that they punched the Knicks in the mouth in Game 7 felt very similar to what they just did to the Cavs in Game 4, where by halftime, you kind of knew the game was already over for the Knicks when in Game 7 last year. And then this year, beating the Bucks like they did, having 2 comebacks where they were down 7 points with a minute left and still winning the game. And now against the Cavaliers team that, yeah, the first 2 games the Cavs weren't healthy, but we just saw them blow them out when the starting lineup was out there in Game 4. 2 Eastern Conference Finals in 2 years. That's admirable.
Let me ask you guys the question. Totally random. If the Kings traded for Fox instead of Halliburton, would Fox reach the level of success that Halliburton has on the Pacers?
Well, if Fox went to the Pacers, you're saying?
Correct.
Yes. You kind of flipped it. That's why, I know you're half asleep right now.
Thank you. So if Fox went to the Pacers instead of Halliburton, would they have the same level of success that they've reached with Halliburton?
Do all of the moves stay the same? Like, we still get Siakam,
It's
Nesmith.
basically everything the same, but Fox instead of Halliburton.
I think so. I think De'Aaron Fox had showed to be a high-level scorer, a guy that could average 26, 27 plus a night. Not the playmaker that Hallie is, but in this offense with his speed, I think they would have just as much success.
It's hard for me to say no. I think Halliburton uplifts an offense so much more than Fox. I think Sabonis was the offensive hub in Sacramento. But in the playoffs, we saw when the Kings made the playoffs, Fox averaged nearly 30 points per game in that series and was going toe-to-toe with one of the best players on the planet in Steph in that series. So I think that scoring translating to the Pacers, it would open up a lot of things for them. And if they're as deep as they are now, like if we swap Fox and Hallie right now, I still think they have a chance to be one of the best teams in the East still. And it's really an organizational thing. And the organization is really doing great by Hallie to make sure that his strengths are forecasted and shown. But I think he also raises his game when it's called for it, especially in clutch time moments.
I'm glad that we all decided to acknowledge De'Aaron Fox and understanding that he's a lot better than situation has served him and for a majority of his career. So I'm glad that was the respect put on him.
Now we have some super chats. B Swag goes, Joel, can we get this is a message for Joe Dells in your WWE voice? Okay, I'll try. This is on the fly. This is a message for Joe Dells.
That was pretty good.
I'll take that.
Burke, Garland plus Allen for Giannis. We talked about this in nauseum. Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm the Bucks, I have to be firm on Mobley. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I have to stand firm on Mobley. You don't want to give me Mobley, you don't get Giannis. Sorry.
So you would do Mobley even if Garland's not involved, if you get Mobley back in any capacity?
Oh, no, I need both.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to lie. If I could get Mobley back, let's make a package around Mobley.
Because if you're the Cavaliers, you still have Mitchell, Giannis, and Allen. I mean, it's not like you don't have nothing.
Nah, I know.
So it's a risk, but if you want to go all in, I don't know. I would try to keep Mobley as much as possible.
Mobley's still young, and he just won DPOY.
Tino Pantojo goes, do you guys think the OKC and Denver series will go to 7 games? I got OKC in 6.
I got OKC in 6 too, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to be stunned if it goes 7 with the way that the Thunder have played offense in some of these games.
I do think this is a 7-game series. I had so much confidence in the Thunder going into this, and it's 2-2. And like you guys said, they could win in 6. And we look back, 1-6, fine. Even though when you look at all these games, it's a lot closer outside of one. This Denver team, they've shown me a lot of. They've earned respect for me, although they're champion. But just the way this season ended, firing the coach, the defense was so bad. The way Aaron Gordon's played, the way Westbrook has played. I think it's a 7-game series. Denver has a real chance to win it.
Hustle goes SGA, A Wiggs clutched, and Chokic selling Denver.
Insane. Respect to Aaron Wiggins. He balled. No mention of Alex Caruso. No mention of Cason Wallace. Come on, Hustle.
I know yesterday we were talking how I haven't seen SGA slander. I've seen a lot of Jokic slander.
Yo, SGA has, outside of today, which there was 2 possessions that I absolutely hated for him. Today was really good. Dude, game 3. What the hell?
It was ugly.
And this is where we're going to bring Riv up here.
Here we
Super
go.
chat LD. Donovan Mitchell quit on his team. Second year in a row. Shaking my head. What do you got to say about that, Riv? I know there's a player out in Minnesota that would never quit on his team. He would get hurt and come back in the game.
Why did I hear Mobley talks and trades? What's going on, man?
Because we're saying if the Cavaliers lose, should they go trade for Giannis? Should it be Garland and Allen or Garland and Mobley?
3-1, we're talking about Giannis trades. Season's not over. It's Giannis trades, though, you know?
Jesus Christ. Mobley in trade talks. He just won Defensive Player of the Year.
And well, he's not in trade talks. It was a package centered around Jared Allen.
Do Cleveland even have picks? I don't know if they
only have 3 picks they can trade.
Not good picks.
Yeah. What's up, fellas?
Riv, what's up, bro?
Yeah, he took a little longer than expected, but got him. Had to lock my door and take all the electronics, put him somewhere.
Yeah, so Riv was putting his kid to sleep. What do you got to say about the super chat, Riv?
That's just stupid. He quit on his team. He's been the only one that's been able to show up for 4 games. People say stupid things. If you want to just say the team didn't show up, I completely agree. The whole team didn't show up to play today.
3 for 11 showing up?
Huh?
3 for 11? You said 4 games. 3 games he showed up for sure. 4 games.
Yeah. I'm not. I started by saying the whole team didn't show up. I don't think you could just put it on Donovan Mitchell. I think the whole team just came out, and it screamed vibes of New York, the New York series, where they just came out and they were soft, just checked out. Indiana came to play. Not only did they come to play, I want to give credit to their defense because their defense showed up in a big way. They were able to put a ton of pressure. They didn't change their philosophy through any type of game outside of maybe game 2 in like the first 3 quarters. I feel like for the most part, they've played the same way from games 1 to 4. They were consistent in who they were. And for Cleveland, I've been on Cleveland Spaces for like an hour. I'm tired of hearing the injury bullshit, man. The injury excuse only works for game 1. After that, man, I don't want to hear it. You had an opportunity to win game 2. You blew a 20-point lead, and then you blew a 7-point lead in like a minute and 12 seconds. You had an opportunity here to tie the series up, and your whole team didn't show up to play. You went out sorry. The best thing I can say is go out there and win game 6, have a fighting win game 5, pardon me, have a fighting chance at game 6. But Indiana looks like the much better team right now. Credit to them.
Yeah, we talked already about this series ad nauseum. I mean, what do you think about Cleveland's outlook in their future? You have to run it back 1 more year at least, I think, right?
Yeah, I think for the most part, you make moves around the margin. Ty Jerome's probably gone. You got guys like Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell who are still young. I think Darius is probably just entering his prime. Donovan Mitchell's in his prime. Jared is probably entering his prime. And then you've seen a immense leap from Evan Mobley. So I loved what I've seen from Max Strus this series. So this is a guy you want to keep. DeAndre Hunter's probably going to be a guy you keep. So for the most part, you have your 7 guys. It's just about improving and getting better on the margins. I don't think they make this big, Giannis trade, Kevin Durant trade. I think they're comfortable with where they're at in the regular season. It's unfortunate that they went out the way they did in this game. But I think for the most part, you keep the same roster, make a couple moves here and there, but you keep the same guys.
Can I ask a question? Why am I seeing in the chat that somebody here on the show said Donovan Mitchell's better than Tatum?
I think I said it in group chat. But I
definitely said it in the group chat.
Yeah, I definitely texted that, but we troll in there. So I didn't say it like on here.
So shout out to Ty Jerome for coming on the show and being a friend of ours.
Is he a friend of yours?
I think he lost a lot of money this series, unfortunately, with his performance.
How much we talking? I think he's still an $18 million man.
He is a amazing role player who got absolutely launched into having to be a starter and arguably a second, third most important player in the offense.
I'm looking at paying Pritchard's contract. He got 4 years, $30 million. His cap hit is $7 million per year.
To be fair, though, when Pritchard got that contract, he hadn't
steal.
done shit. They were basically saying, we think you'll turn into a good player, and he turned into the guy he is now.
You're absolutely correct, but what team is going to take a 4-year contract on a Ty Jerome?
I think the Spurs would.
Because I think he has some injury history, and I feel like he really needed a playoff run to kind of solidify what he did in the regular season. Like, I think he's going to get paid. He's going to go somewhere, but
I don't know.
I wouldn't rule out him staying in Cleveland for a similar deal that Pritchard got, like 2 years, $20 million. I think he could stay in Cleveland.
Yeah, but I don't think Ty Jerome needs a playoff run because he's like a kind of role player, 6-man backup guard. He's not someone that is like your second or third best player that like we need. If this dude doesn't show up in the playoffs, we're scred. Like, of course, Ty Jerome is going to be a key part, but
Yeah, but he
I don't
played
think
bad
that.
for being like your 7th man still, though.
Yeah, bro, I think you're overreacting a little bit.
No, I don't think so.
I think he'll still get paid. I've seen Tobias Harris, kind of different guys, but I've seen Tobias Harris still get paid.
Tobias Harris he's way better though.
Yeah, but like he's still getting paid a shit ton of money. He's like a 4th guy. So I
Okay.
think Ty Jerome could still
Ty
get
Jerome was also sex against Miami. Again, I think he's got jolted into a position that he hasn't been all season long, and nobody's saying to pay him 30, 40 million a season.
I think he'll get 18, 20.
I don't think you can rule out him staying with the Cavs. I think he's going to stay with them.
I think he gets paid more than Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson's getting paid like 17 million a year.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
Ty could get more than 17.
No, bro. 17 is a lot, dude.
Not that.
I don't
No.
know. Yeah.
Manuel
I'm-
quickly
I'm
got
closer
32.
If he got 15 a year, I'd be like, okay, that's a great deal for him. If he got like 15.
Lakers also did steal from Austin Reeves. That's something to keep in mind. Like, that's a contract where it was a 1-year type deal where Reeves really turned up and really was able to get paid.
Like, would you be surprised at San Antonio throwing him a 3-year, $48 million deal?
I would be.
100%.
I would be.
100%.
Because they have De'Aaron Fox.
Why would they throw that to a backup guard?
I mean, Malik Monk got 20 as a backup.
But Malik Monk is way better, dude.
But we're just talking role.
Malik
is the backup.
Monk is Malik Monk.
No, I agree, but Malik Monk took a pay cut, realistically.
He did.
I think Ty Jerome can get 18 to 20 on the market. He just had a great regular season, had a great first round. He didn't lose money because he played 3 bad games.
If the Magic, it'd be ironic because obviously he had his little beef with the Magic, but the Magic are a team that I can see being in play that might give him a little bit more money than necessary to come be their lead guard.
I agree with what Esmatic said. The Cavs can afford Jerome now. He just played himself into a lesser contract based on his series. That's kind of where I'm at. I think, but like 10 to 12 million a year is where I'm at.
Are we not being fair to him?
12?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yes.
Are we not being fair to him that
what?
Mobley and Garland got hurt and he had to go and play at a much bigger role?
10 to 12. Who's around 10 to 12? That's
Game
like,
2, he went 1 for 14. Game 3, he went 1 for 8. Game 4, he was 2 for 3.
no, he's been terrible in this series.
He
But, like,
has.
do you ignore 80 games in the Miami series? I feel like that's just as important.
I mean, I think the defense has kind of reared its head in this series, like how bad it could be.
But have you, like, did the regular season not earn him like 14 at minimum?
If he had multiple years of production, yeah, but he doesn't. This is his first year of production.
But this is his contract year, though.
I know. That's why, like, I think like 10 to 12 is like fair. Like,
How much
if
Dante makes?
Dante DiVincenzo?
Yeah.
14. Last time I checked.
I could see it. I could see it.
I could see 14 is a lot different than 20.
I can see
Yes.
slightly more, only because Dante doesn't play to his level in the playoffs.
You know what? As I'm thinking about it, Joel might be right, man. Austin Reeves got 4 for 56.
But you guys stole.
Yeah, Dante is 11 million right now.
But that's the thing. They stole because there wasn't
It wasn't.
a huge market for him. I don't know if there's going to be a huge market.
Is there going to be a huge market for Ty Jerome?
Maybe like 2-3 teams. Nothing crazy.
That's why
going to be driving up the price. I don't think.
I would not be stunned if he got an Austin Reeves-esque deal. That's what I'm at now. I'm at that where if it's a 4-year 56, I'm not stunned.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping he played better. Obviously, like I don't want him to not play well, but
No, it's a fact.
I just think that offensively this series he was bad. Even game 1, he had 21, but 8 for 20 from the field. Didn't shoot well from 3, and I really think that whenever he's been on the court, they have kind of been attacking him defensively a lot. So that's kind of the Cavs are paying a lot of money, so who knows if they're even going to go over the second apron to re-sign him. But I do think that some team in the offseason is going to be able to get him at a discount if he signs for multiple years.
I can see a team slightly overpaying.
Yeah, so we could talk about this OKC game. They won 92-87. Now OKC, there was a point in time where I was really nervous about them in this game. It was another clutch time game, 5 minutes left. Oh my goodness, you're 0-2 in these situations. They put up a graphic of the clutch time minutes for these two teams in games 1 and game 3, because obviously game 2 was a blowout. And when looking at just their clutch time performance before game 4, OKC had 13 points. They were 4 for 20, and Denver had 28 points, and they were 8 for 18. So OKC was terrible in the clutch, and I'm kind of mixed about the clutch time performance in this game. In the fourth quarter, so this is not just clutch time, it's just in the fourth quarter in general. OKC had a 126.1 offensive rating. Denver had a 75 offensive rating. I feel like that is a perfect encapsulation of what I felt the fourth quarter was and clutch time was, in the fact that I thought OKC had a multitude of good possessions within the last 5 minutes. SGA reading the defenses, driving, making quick decisions, passing, being more aggressive and picking his spots on the floor. I still think there's a limitation with Shea's playmaking that I think other stars like Giannis, Jokic, and Luka, they give you and they make those passes. And Shea is like kind of improving in real time at it. Those first few possessions in the last 5 minutes were really good, but I thought OKC's offense really stalled out when you saw SGA take back-to-back stab back 3-point shots when he has not hit the 3-ball well. Then the next possession down, he turned the ball over, driving to the basket. It went off his leg. I think OKC, the last 2 minutes, they really kind of were begging Denver to take the lead, but Denver couldn't hit shots. They were very fatigued. Jamal Murray came off a screen and had a wide open 3-point shot, and he airballed it. They had a 75 offense rate in the fourth quarter. While I do think OKC's fourth quarter performance was an upgrade over what we've seen in previous games, it still hasn't sold me all the way into their clutch time offense. I thought more so Denver just really couldn't hit a shot in the final 5 minutes. Everything was off, and that is a credit to Denver's defense. I mean, that is a credit to OKC's defense. I mean, this was a defensive battle in the first half. Score was like 41-36. So, I mean, it was a defensive battle all the way through. But overall, OKC kind of left me with a mixed bag after this game. There are some positives, and like Drew mentioned earlier, the contributions of really Caruso, Cason Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins off the bench kind of swung this game. I don't know what you do with Lou Dort at this point. Lou Dort is a good defender, but Caruso's a better defender, and he just cannot hit shots. He hasn't hit a road 3-point shot, I think, in like a month now. So I just don't know what you do with him. I don't think he should play as much as Mark Daigneault played him in the first 3 games.
It's incredible. It's incredible to me how Lou Dort for the last 2 regular seasons has been statistically a really good 3-point shooter. And in 2 consecutive playoffs, he's completely forgotten how to shoot the basketball. It's insane. I actually am dumbfounded at that reality. However, offense was hard to come by for both teams. The fact that for a good portion of the second quarter, the Nuggets were stuck at less than double-digit points. It was ridiculous. And then the Nuggets end up charging back. OKC starts to struggle with their offense. The Nuggets take a lead. And then we start to see Oklahoma City play their brand of basketball. I thought Shea was really strong in the second half, especially closing this game. In my opinion, I get it. The last 2 possessions that he took control of were not great. The 2 missed threes on the same possession after they get the get back. And then, of course, turning the ball over. But I thought that he made some good decisions, obviously some tough shots making, but also the one where he goes, kicks out to J-Dub. J-Dub not having a strong game. J-Dub's ability to get to the cup and finish strong, that was a big bucket. I get that J-Dub was not great in this game. Chet Holmgren, I know that his body type is one that he's just going to have to get used to at the NBA level and having to play at that physicality. But there's something about him not being as strong as these other guys that he's going to go up against, even though he is taller than them. Sometimes he's just going to get out-muscled, and in certain situations, that could be a negative.
We saw that with Aaron Gordon, the rebound he got over him.
100%. That is exactly the play that I'm talking about. And then, of course, last year when it came to Gafford and Lively absolutely bullying him as to one of the reasons why you had to go out there and get Isaiah Hartenstein. But the contributions that you got from your role players was excellent today. Alex Caruso showed why you go out there and you trade for him. And as great as Giddey was this season, Alex Caruso's impact on defense, hitting the 3-ball was huge for him, and especially in that first half. But the defense, the hustle that he plays with every single possession, it's just stuff that you don't see in the NBA. And then Cason Wallace, his big shot making down the stretch of this game as well. Aaron Wiggins, he was really strong in this game. it's just so crazy to me how this Oklahoma City team has really just lost its juice offensively. And I get that the defense that the Nuggets are throwing at Shea. A lot of credit to Shea also for being able to go out there today and be as effective as he was with the level of defense, with the amount of attention that he is being met with every single time he has the ball in his hands. And understandably so. You go out there and you sell out on Shea and force these other guys to beat you because in the sense of a Lou Dort or a guy like J-Dub in today's game where they can't hit the broadside of a barn, that's the opportunity. That's what you're willing to live with when you're the Denver Nuggets. And when you have SGA going out there and hitting these tough shots, hey, you just tip your cap to him. For the Nuggets here, this was a game that definitely could have obviously changed the pendulum for them. They look like they could have gone ahead and closed this one out. But you respect Oklahoma City for showing who they've been for a good portion of this season, the best defensive team in basketball, making Jokic take a tough shot after tough shot. You mentioned it. They looked like they were just playing tired, and that's what you have to do when you're the Denver Nuggets. They're very reliant on their 5 guys, and then 6 when you include Russell Westbrook. But Russell obviously was in some foul trouble. You want to go with the 3-point shot, with the MPJ, with the Christian Brown. But in this game, they showed why Oklahoma City team is better because of their depth and because of their role players. The bench really dominated this game. I think it was a 20, almost 30-point difference in bench points between the two teams. It was a very good, bad game. If that makes sense, not a lot of offense, but a whole lot of defense. And of course, it comes down to the end. I think Jokic needs to be better. That's the one thing I'll say in this. For the Nuggets side, Jokic needs to be better, but the same can be said for Oklahoma City Stars as well.
Yeah, the Joker was bad down the stretch. Like, he was really, really bad just in terms of just causing some silly fouls, missing some good looks. I agree. If the Joker was better down the stretch, I feel like Denver probably wins this game. For OKC, I feel like, and I don't want to sound rude when I say it, but they just feel easy to guard, like in a sense of where it feels like you schematically you don't have to draw up nothing advanced, nothing brand. It's this team doesn't have enough passers. They don't have enough advantage creators for other people. Like, there's not many. You throw up a zone, you put 2 on the ball. SGA and J Double more than likely looking for the ISO. You swarm the paint. You have guys double help, and it's just like these guys feel like, or they forget how to play basketball. They don't have much movement with their ball handling. I think that's a tricky part, and I think that's why Denver's been able to get away with this defense, because OKC plays a specific fashion on offense. They're very SGA reliant. They're very J-Dub, if he's on go, reliant. Still trying to figure out what Chet's role is offensively. I know he had a good game 3. But just in terms of just game 1, game 2, and game 4, his offensive role has been a little bit sporadic, and that could be because maybe Hartenstein's on the floor. Maybe they just don't give him the ball a ton, but you need him on the floor because that defensive impact is always sound. But I feel like Aaron Gordon has been probably the 3rd best player.
100%.
Just the way he's been able to bring it on both ends in terms of the rebounding, the scoring impact, the clutch genes, just being a vocal impact player on both ends. As for OKC, I agree. I do think they're slightly deeper, but also their shooters are very hit or miss. They're very, some days they're hitting, some days they're not. For Denver, you just live with those guys hitting shots. You have to worry about stopping SGA and J-Dub. But I think 2-2, Denver has an opportunity where they can win game 5 at Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is going to be rocking. Game 5 is going to be crazy. The fans are going to be there. It's just, for me, that fourth quarter, first of all, that first half, oh God, awful
Disgusting
basketball. But in terms of the second half, everything started to kick into gear. You saw defensively, Denver was able to do some things. They went on a little run, but like I mentioned, Aaron Wingers came in, hit 2 threes that were really important. In case of Wallace came in, he hit a couple of clutch shots. Alex Caruso hit a couple of clutch shots. SGA was able to be cool down the stretch, So I think, you want to – J-Dub had an awful game and you still won the game. So that's really good. That means your team really prevailed and they, got the W.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, are both of these teams just so good that each other looks bad against each other? Or do these two teams actually have these real concerns? Because for the Thunder, both Chet and J-Dub outside of a game, you haven't really felt their presence at all, at least on offense, right? They're both shooting terribly from the field. I think they're both 20% from 3, under 40% from the field. you haven't gotten, outside that one game from J-Dub, a real efficient night from either of them. So their presence hasn't really been felt in the way I thought you would after the first round, against Memphis, where it felt like maybe they figured some things out, of course, coming off a disappointing year last year. And for the Nuggets, this is Jokic's probably his worst series in multiple years. I don't know, like multiple years at this point, when it comes to the turnovers he's having, the inefficiency. He can't hit a three to save his life. Down in clutch time, back-to-back games, has not been efficient whatsoever. This is the worst we've seen Nikola Jokic, and it felt like after game one, this was going to be a series that he feasted in, right? We were talking about how great Zubac was playing against him in round one. You're like, oh, round two, it's Hartenstein and Chet. This feels like something that Jokic should be able to dominate. He goes and has 40 points in game one, so we know he can perform against this defense. But since then, it's been extremely ugly. Like, on one hand, I feel like, Riv, you mentioned it, maybe Drew, you too, that if Jokic plays better down the stretch, it's up 3-1. But in the same breath, I'm here. If I'm a Denver fan, I feel lucky being 2-2. Like, you have gotten 3 real stinkers from Jokic, where it's just stuff that we have not seen from him in a long time, right? Maybe for multiple years now, that he's had these consecutive games that he just has been able to show up. And I think they've done a good job at, not giving him easy looks around the paint. And he's been settling for a lot of threes. Of course, he was 0 for 10 on Saturday night, was that? But also when he's around the rim, his touch is just off. Like, he has gotten good looks around the rim at the free throw line, and they are just off. I feel like at this point, it's probably just in his head a little bit, needs to see a few shots go down, because the three's not there, which we've seen the jumper kind of deteriorate as the season has gone on. The regular season was strong. First round, not as great. And then this round is under a point per shot. So right now his offensive game it's looking wicked. It's not something we've seen for a while from Jokic. So I think both of these defenses are playing at an extremely high level. And I feel like whoever wins this series, they're going to give Minnesota a real chance, a real fight. I think that's going to be both Eastern and Western conferences are going to be interesting for different reasons. I feel like in the West, we're going to have 2 teams that are like closer in terms of like star talent and guys that are like, top level players. And then in the East, if it goes the way I think it's going to go, we have one team that's super deep with all of this talent, and then a Boston team that's coming off a championship with this firepower. So 2 kind of contrasting styles. But I think this series has been awesome, man. I think it's going to go 7 games, and I still can't really figure out who's going to win it.
Yo, Joel, let me ask you real quick. Yoke 2 for 7, 28% true shooting in the fourth quarter. Out of shape?
Yeah. I mean, you can
Him probably.
I agree with everything Dell said outside of the Boston point. I mean, the Knicks are making an ECF, buddy.
Am I bugging, or do I think these teams should be more concerned with Minnesota than Minnesota be concerned with them?
I don't know, bro. No. Minnesota has not looked the best version of themselves against Golden
But I
State.
think this is a game. I think these nasty, ugly, low-scoring games is kind of like what Minnesota likes to play. Like, this is the game like they like to play, and they like this physical type of play. Like, I feel like OKC offensively would struggle a little bit more to score in Minnesota than Minnesota would struggle to score in them. Like,
I mean, I would disagree. The OKC is the best defense in basketball.
Yeah, but I think it's also like a style scheme thing. Like, once like you're playing Golden State, but like you're playing Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. Like, that's a dynamic duo, and then the elite defense, and then you're playing Steve Kerr. I don't know. It's like I feel like Minnesota, like their shooting has been pretty sporadic, but for the most part, like I think
the last 2 games.
Yeah, this ugly physical like game that they want to play. I think they're getting excited to play that type of series.
I think what you said, Dells, is the first option you laid out there is what I'm leaning towards. I think these 2 teams are just elite teams, and that's what they are. I don't think that some part of them is being exposed. I think OKC not being battle tested in clutch time is something that's a real legitimate concern, but this series is giving them that experience that they need. This is a young team that is still learning on the fly, and I think we're watching that in real time. But Denver has tapped into a level of play that I didn't think they were capable of. Offensively, they were very bad, and really Jokic hasn't been efficient this series. But defensively, they kicked up to a level that I think that nobody expected out of them. And I think that's been the biggest difference in why they're in this scenario. what Drew said about the role players thing, I think is what the biggest swing in this series is. OKC had 4 players today that they played over 10 minutes off the bench. One of them playing over 20 minutes, which was Caruso. And I think Kaysen was close to it. I think you have Caruso was at 28 minutes and Kaysen was at 22 minutes. So they had 2 players off the bench play over 20 minutes and 2 more play over 10 minutes. Denver only had 1 player who played over 20 minutes, over 10 minutes off their bench. That was Russell Westbrook. Everybody else, Payne Watson, Julian Strawther, they got less than 10 minutes. They both each got 8 minutes and 7 minutes each. If you cannot provide your best players with a breather, they're going to be gassed like this at the end of games. So I feel like we're looking at Denver, who it's such a quick turnaround time that if they can't rely on their bench to give them more serviceable minutes, then we're going to see their legs at the end of games be really out of it, and those jump shots are going to be short. I agree that Jokic hasn't finished at the basket the best. I think OKC's rim protection is really getting tested this series, and Hartenstein and Chet's verticality have been amazing and challenging Jokic, but I think it is the best defense in the NBA, and it is the best defense in the NBA for a reason. Not only do they have elite rim protection, but they have elite perimeter defenders. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I do think when Minnesota makes the conference finals, because I think they'll be going to State, Denver or OKC, I think Vegas will have them both favored in that series. Now, I understand what you're saying about the matchup thing, but I think Vegas, when they crunch up the numbers and do all that stuff, I think both teams will be favored against Minnesota.
I just want to talk about the Jokic point because I just think he's missing shots we normally see him make too. I will say what Hartenstein, also Caruso in moments, of course, Chet Holmgren, they're making it incredibly difficult on him. And there's a reason why you went out there and were uber aggressive to go and bring in Isaiah Hartenstein for a series like this, for a matchup like this, because you know you're going to go up against the league's best, Nikola Jokic, and he's going to bully. If it were just Chet versus Jokic, we would see game 1 on a constant repeat. But with the physicality that Isaiah Hartenstein can bring to that matchup, of course, the switchability that Caruso provides, there's moments where I do think that Jokic should finish more. He should be more efficient. These are shots that we've watched for the last 5 years. Jokic absolutely just constantly hit and be the most consistent player in basketball up until these last 2 series. I just don't think we're seeing the most consistent version of Jokic for the first time while he's been the best in the world.
I think overall we've gotten a collective amount of superstar stinkers in the playoffs. Jokic, Anthony Edwards had bad games against the Warriors, and the last game against the Lakers, Jason Tatum hasn't had a very good series.
Everyone but
against
Luka.
the Knicks. Luka did play well in the first round. Yeah, he did. Set 31 points per game on 61% true shooting. Overall, Shea hasn't had the best playoffs from an efficiency standpoint. I think we're kind of just moving into an era where teams are forcing role players to beat you more than ever, and having liabilities in your 5 out there really showcases a ton of flaws. Like you look at OKC, they're able to load up on the paint and have 4 people with eyes on SGA because nobody's worried about Lou Dort shooting the ball. You look at Boston. I think Jason for the most part is just like settling on shots on I think for the most part. But you look at Jokic, like the amount of attention that he's had on him with Hartenstein and Chet, those are 2 of the best defenders at the 5 in the world. I think overall, collectively, defenses from a schematic standpoint and individual defenders on teams have never been better. I mean, you have a team like OKC that has literally been built to stop opposing star players. They have elite perimeter defenders. They have elite rim protectors. A team like Minnesota who has 5 great defenders, probably even more than that. You know, I think overall we're just seeing teams lean into more defensive oriented lineups, and they're making more of a difference in these playoff series.
Yo, Dels, are you ever gonna take back that fatigue thing, or you lock that in? That's set in steel.
Oh no, that's locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, that shit sucks because I've seen so many stars in the 4th quarter absolutely gas out.
Not like Luka. He's just
no. We watched it with Tatum. We watched it with Jokic. 1,000%. We watched it with Jokic. We definitely watched it with Tatum for sure. For sure.
No, I think to Joel's point, it's true though, because Swipa's going crazy, right? Because people are like, Jokic shouldn't be best in the world, right? Like
Yeah,
he's struggling, the percentages are ugly, this and that. But then his rebuttal, which I think is right, is who takes over. All right, sure, Jokic isn't the best in the world. Fine. Who do you want to give it to?
Giannis,
who got bounced in
We're
5
good,
games,
buddy.
who hasn't been able to make a deep playoff
You know who
run
we
in
could bet?
years and years
Hey,
and years.
get ahead of the curve.
You want to give it to Luka, who 2 out of the 3 years has gone sent home in the first round or missed the playoffs. Tatum hasn't been consistent. Shea hasn't been consistent. Like there really hasn't been. And all of these dudes who we consider in the top 6, 7, 8 players in the world. I guess maybe Donovan Mitchell, Riv, before this game. I know you were pushing him over. You were pushing him over Tatum for a minute.
Donovan Mitchell,
but like nobody has had this consistent run to be able to take Jokic's crown. So he's not playing great. Nobody really is.
Oh, okay. Just had to ask.
Yo, has Donovan Mitchell made a finals?
If everybody gets injured, he might.
What about conference finals?
If everybody gets injured, he might.
Remember when Donovan Mitchell pulled a Devin Booker before Devin Booker? Do you remember that?
What's a Devin Booker?
Blowing a series lead when you're the better team, like he did when he was.
He had 40.
Oh, interesting. Oh, he had 40, but he blew it to a Kawhi-less Clippers.
You have to go back to the bubble because he's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, Riv, what about when I said the Pacers have a brighter future than the Cavaliers?
I don't know. What do you want me to do with that?
And look at where they're at now.
Okay. Interesting.
Betting on the Pacers to win this series, one of the best decisions I made.
Yeah, well, you're a flip. So
$100 to make 256. No, I'm just the ultimate opportunist, like Edge. That's it. After game one,
saw the value.
After game one, I saw the value exactly. I saw that the Cavs were injured. I said, I'm gonna pounce on it because not only is Cleveland at a disadvantage, but I believe in Indiana as a really great team, and I took advantage. Opportunist.
I remember those couple of weeks he was in on the Cavs, man. What a time that was.
Man, one of the best decisions of my life. Just jumping off shift. Sometimes you realize what's coming before it comes.
I would have loved to see Johnny here, man.
Yeah, where's John?
Yeah, I have no idea.
He's kicking in with Tanner and Brennan.
Yeah, but Del, to your point, like I feel like Jokic hasn't had the efficiency stuff. It hasn't gone his way, but if he has great blow-up games in the playoffs, people mention like the defensive stuff. And right now he's having inefficient games, but people are not mentioning like how great he's been on defense. And it was a big reason why OKC's offense was bad. Like I feel like Denver as collective defensively, they're really playing well. And Jokic is a big part of that, especially in the Clippers series. He was a huge reason why their defense turned around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what he brings is a rebounder too. Like, these guys are going crazy on the boards. He's one of the strongest rebounders you'll find.
Like he was inefficient, but 27 and 13. Like, I mean, it's still
come on, let's not gas it. 11 for 14 from the free throw line. However,
yeah, not good.
The defense, it's been good, but it's really just like a strong. Let's condense this court. Let's really make it difficult for them to get to the basket. Let's really throw bodies while they're driving, while they're cutting, and force them to shoot jump shots because they haven't been a great 3-point shooting team this series. Like he's been good. I'm not taking that away from him, but it's been a simple game plan on the defensive side.
Yeah, no doubt. We see with somebody with added responsibility like Giannis, stifle a Halliburton drive in game 5 to end the game.
Ooh. On the perimeter, 7 feet guarding a 6'4" guy.
No bag, they said.
I'd say this. It was supposed to be SGA, man. He was supposed to take best in the world mantle if he played great. It's unfortunate that he's not.
He still has time. We have 2 rounds.
He plays Jokic the last 2 games.
It's not saying much. They both been on the shitter.
I think SGA outplayed him today.
Sure.
Yeah, he had 9 points in the 4th quarter.
He did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he played well.
Yeah,
he had 2 bad possessions. They just unfortunately were in like the most crucial time of the game. However, it was 2 out of the however many that he had in the 4th.
He outplayed the Joker, but the bar right now isn't like high. It's like right now, the way they've been playing, the bar is pretty at the middle.
And but like we're saying, these are 2 alphas going at it right now. Yeah, I think we all believe OKC is the better team, but these are 2 dogs going at it. I think it's unrealistic for the rest of the series, at least moving forward, for us to anticipate them to be their regular season versions of themselves in this series.
You
I
think
just
so?
don't think that's a realistic possibility.
That's unfortunate. I expect you to be great. So
No, I
especially-
expect them to be great,
Yeah.
but you can be great while also like I think today SGA was great, and this wasn't the typical SGA game. I don't think Jokic was great for his standard, but we've seen moments in this series where he has been great, just not at the regular season level.
Yeah,
Freeholder 33 goes.
that would be a drop off though.
I agree.
Riv, you see these guys debating Bateman or Pickens.
Yeah, I saw that shit, man.
It's a fair debate. I mean, do you know who was the second best wide receiver in terms of EPA per target last season?
Man, you only use EPA when it matters to you. Fuck EPA.
No,
You know what's
Rashad
hilarious about
Bateman.
it? You know what's
Fuck
hilarious
you.
about it? Riv, guess who's number one? And he has to acknowledge.
Who?
Yes,
Who?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Amon-Ra's incredible.
Shout out to Amon-Ra, man.
Jay Clark goes, Knicks will recreate what the Pacers did tonight in game 4, lock it in. Knicks are due for a great game.
That would turn me up.
They are due
You
for a
guys
great game.
really are, honestly. Like you really are due for a great game.
They're due. I mean, it's coming. If we go up 3-1, I mean,
I don't know,
just
man.
call it
Knicks are
quits,
dog
Dust.
shit at MSG.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
Boston
home
has
teams
won
are
more games at MSG than any other team in NBA history.
home teams are 28 and 29 at home this year in the playoffs.
It's pretty
We're
horrible.
coming, man. We're coming.
Yeah, you are. We'll see about
Hope
that.
you're
How
ready.
much, with how much velocity?
We're coming.
How much girth?
We're coming.
All right, so if you guys are watching right now, we have 700 live viewers in the stream right now. Make sure you guys drop a like on the stream. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. We will be back tomorrow. Probably do a live in studio podcast on Tuesday. So thank you guys for watching.
Who
You
plays
can
tomorrow?
follow us. What would you say?
Who
Celtics.
plays tomorrow?
Celtics, Knicks.
Just them?
Celtics. So like Warriors maybe, or they play Tuesday.
They
It might
should
be 2
play
games.
Tuesday.
Usually it's
Yeah,
2 games.
Wolves play tomorrow as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
man,
I
let
think
us see game 4.
Okay. All right. So we'll see you guys. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at Pickside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pickside Podcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.